Hello friends, let us discuss anthropology. So far we have discussed many anthropological theories in our previous video. I have discussed with you uh, various theories. We have discussed classical evolutionism, new evolutionism. We have discussed historical particularism, uh, diffusionism, various diffusionism school of thought. So far, we have discussed functionalism, structural functionalism school of thought. We have also discussed structuralism school of thought and also discussed culture and personality school of thought. I have discussed with you various thinkers, uh, what classical evolutionism say about anthropological theories and what this neo-classical evolutionism is different from classical evolutionism. What are the criticism? Like we have discussed about psychic unity of man in classical evolutionism, like various theorists that are that talk about classical theory of evolutionism are E.B. Tylor, James Frazer, and Alec Morgan. Okay, so E.B. Tylor is a British anthropologist. They talked about that culture evolution takes place in the unilinear fashion. It means that the culture of the various societies of the world, they pass through the same sequence of steps. We've talked about various stages of culture like savagery, barbarism, and civilization. Uh, we discussed about how technology evolved, starting with simple tools, then complex tool, then modern tools. Okay, so culture is a very important uh, component of the society. It includes, it is the complex whole. It includes traditions, customs, okay, knowledge that are acquired by the members of the society. So we discussed about primitive culture, book written by E.B. Tylor. Okay, we also discussed about Golden Bow, book written by James Frazer. James Frazer talks about that magic started first in the primitive societies and religion emerged second after magic, and science originated afterwards religion. So magic, science, and religion, they are integrated component of the society. They interact with each other. All magic, science, and religion, they complement each other. Culture is a important thing that are being discussed here. We talked about E.B. Tylor. We talked about system of consanguinity and affinity of human family, book written by Alec Morgan. The elementary structure of kinship, also written by Alec Morgan. We and in new evolutionism we discussed about V.D. Gordon Childe, who divided the prehistoric culture into Paleolithic period, Mesolithic period, Neolithic period, then Copper Age, Bronze Age, and then lastly Iron Age. V.D. Gordon Childe described the Neolithic culture as Neolithic Revolution. Then Leslie White also belongs to this new evolutionism school of thought. Leslie White explained the cultural evolutionism on the basis of energy. We gave equation the product of energy and technology is equal to culture. It means that more culture, high technology means more culture, less technology, less uh, energy means less culture. Leslie White gave the concept of energy harnessing to explain the cultural evolutionism. Then we also discussed about one more anthropologist who gave cultural ecology, explained the impact of environment on the culture evolutionism, and that he also said that I don't remember his name. He also said he gave the typology that is unilinear evolutionism, multilinear evolutionism, and universal evolutionism. Universal evolutionism. Okay, then we have Marshall Sahlin. Marshall Sahlin also belongs to New Evolutionism school of thought. Martian evolutionism discussed about general evolutionism and specific evolutionism. There is one more anthropologist, Alman Service, who explained culture evolutionism. He explained various forms of political organizations, that is that is band, tribe, chiefdom, and state, how it evolved from one to another. Then we this new evolutionism taught about that culture do not pass through the same stages. Culture progressed in the multilinear evolutionism, but both these school of thought did not explain the role of diffusion in culture progression. Also, they were not able to explain the functional aspect of this culture. All these theories were ethnocentric in approach. So there are different characteristics of classical evolutionism and neo evolutionism school of thought. Then I also discussed with you historical particularism given by Franz Boas. So A.L. Kroeber, Margaret A.L. Kroeber Then Ruth Benedict, they were students of Franz Boas. So Margaret Mead was the student of Ruth Benedict. So culture, we have to study the culture in its own context. No culture is superior or inferior. All cultures are equal. And culture characteristics, evolutionism, should we understand in its own context. Franz Boas gave the concept of cultural relativism. He was against evolutionism theories and was also against ethnocentrism. Historical particularism gave new direction to the anthropological theories. Okay, Franz Boas is the father of American anthropology. He was American anthropologist. Franz Boas, that history of the culture is unique. Culture characteristics are unique. They are not to be compared with other cultures. All cultures are equal. All cultures are superior. No one is inferior to other culture. Franz Boas, moreover, evolutionism belong to, they are armchair anthropologists like E.B. Tylor did not do any field work and participant observation. Armchair anthropologists rely on research papers, journals, traveler's diary. However, historical particularism put more emphasis on field work, participant observation. So, historical particularism introduced field work to the anthropological theories. Okay, it gave anthropology, it made anthropology a scientific discipline. So, it made anthropology a organized subject. Then also we discussed diffusionism school of thought. There are various anthropologists like there are three school of diffusionism majorly like American school of diffusionism, German school of diffusionism, and British school of diffusionism. So first of all, we will discuss British school of diffusionism. So in British school of diffusionism, the various anthropologists are W.H. Rivers, okay. Then we have Paré, W.H. Paré, and G. Smith. So diffusionism talks about culture in a different manner. Diffusionists said that culture originated at one place. They said that Egypt is the source of origin of culture, and from Egypt, culture transmitted, shifted to other societies of the world. British school of diffusionism is also called as heliocentrism. They are also called as Egyptologists. Then we have American school of diffusionism, in which we have Franz Boas, we have A.L. Kroeber. Okay, so American school of diffusionism, like Ralph Linton. Ralph Linton talks about the role of status and role in cultural progression. Status means the role played by an individual and role is their duties that are associated with the particular status. And Franz Boas also discussed about American school of diffusionism like Ralph Linton, like A.L. Kroeber, Franz Boas. They all belong to American school of diffusionism. Then we have German school of diffusionism. German school of diffusionism said that culture, Egypt is not only the source of culture, rather culture originated from few different places and from their culture spread throughout the whole world. German school of diffusionism, also known as continental school of diffusionism. The various anthropologists that belong to German school of diffusionism are who are they? Schmidt, Ratzel, Grabner. They were the three anthropologists belonging to German school of diffusionism. They talked about culture, center. They talked about culture area, culture circle, culture is school of diffusionism. American school of diffusionism is also called as culture circle. Then German school of diffusionism, also called as culturist school of diffusionism, culture centers, culture areas, introduce different concepts, culture area, culture center, culture climax, given by German school of diffusionism. So we talked about a lot about how diffusionism, how culture progress, how culture originated, what are the different aspects of the culture. We are talking about cultural evolutionism. In it is different from biological evolutionism. In biological evolutionism, we talked about how quadrupedalism evolved into bipedalism, how primates got classified into different divisions, and there was adaptive radiation in them. You must be able to understand the adaptive radiation. There was Dolos rule, Cope's rule that was played in biological evolutionism. So light wave we are talking about culture. Okay, after that we discussed structuralist school of functionalism school of thought. Then Malinowski belonged to functional school of thought that every culture satisfy basic needs of an individual, basic needs, instrumental needs, integrated needs. He talked about this type of needs. Then there is structural functionalism school of thought. Radcliffe-Brown belonged to structural function school of thought. He said that culture satisfies the needs of society. So Radcliffe-Brown studied Andaman Islanders like Malinowski studied Trobarin Islanders of Melanesia. He studied collaring practices. Then comes Structuralism school of thought. Levi Strauss and Edmund Lynch belong to Structuralism school of thought. Structuralism school of thought said that uh, culture originated from the structure of the mind. Our mind, there is a deep structure, and it gave rise to culture. Okay, so Clavis-Strauss studied about the elementary structure of kinship. Okay. Then Edmund Lynch also studied about, applied the concepts to the social realities, how there are deep structures, uh, formed, organized, there are organized myths, organized rituals. It is because of the deep structure that lie in our mind. Just like language has rules, grammars, that is why our human mind has deep structures. So that was about structuralism school of thought. Then we have culture and personality school of thought. In culture and personality school of thought, we discussed about Margaret Mead. We discussed about uh, Ruth Benedict. Ruth Benedict said, "Build personality builds culture," and Ruth Benedict studied about various culture like Pueblo Zuni. Okay, he gave two types of personality, that is Dionysian and Apollonian personality. So Apollonian personality, people are calm, cool, they are peace loving, but the people of Dionysian personality, they are just opposite. They are stressful, they are competitive, they are aggressive, they are not calm. Okay, so Pueblo Zuni, and there is one more tribal society that I am forgetting his name, and he studied about these. Ruth Benedict studied about these types of societies to explain how personality builds culture. Then comes Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead said that culture builds personality. Margaret Mead wrote book that sex and temperament in three primitive societies like Arapesh, Mandugumar, Tujumbali. Arapesh are peace living, whereas Tujumbali Mandukumar are violent, not kind, not easy. Then also we have to discuss about he through these types of societies, tribal societies, studying Margaret Mead explained how culture is responsible for the personality formation of an individual. He studied three cultures. Margaret Mead, she studied three cultures. Ruth Benedict also studied cultures. Okay. And we have Ralph Linton studied the role of status and roles in personality formation. And we have Abraham Kardiner also studied about basic personality characteristics, and this basic personality form, this child rearing practices socialization form basic personality, and basic personality lead to the formation of what? It lead to the formation of uh, secondary institutions. Then Cora-du Boas also belong to culture and personality school of thought. Cora-du Boas gave the concept adult model personality. How he also discussed about the relationship between culture and personality. So we studied various anthropologists under personality and culture school of thought. We studied about the various books, elementary structure of kinship, system of consanguinity and infinity of human family, primitive culture, the theory of culture change, methodology of multicultural perspective, sociological evolutionism, social revolution, various books I have mentioned about in the various theories. These books were written by different anthropologists in which they explained various phenomena, explained various societies, the culture, the personality, the functionalist aspects, the various societies. Also, we need to understand there is how it evolves. Okay, classical theory are the oldest theories. Functionalism came in response against culture school classical evolutionism school of thought. Also structural functionalism arose against classical school of thought. Diffusionism also said that man is basically uninventive. He has tries to he has imitating behavior, believes in imitating behavior, has habit of imitating others. That was talked about diffusionism. Also, there was thoughts about other theories of abolitionism. Then came culture and personality school of thought. It integrated the psychology with anthropology. Okay, how culture and personality are related with each other. How culture leads to the formation of personality, and how in some cases personality leads to the formation of culture. So ultimately we are studying about culture, evolutionism, culture formation, spread of culture, evolutionism of culture. The definition was given by E.B. Tylor. It is the complex whole that includes knowledge, belief, then customs, traditions that are acquired by the members of the society. That is the culture. So civilization is something evolved form of culture. There was literally a great explanation given by various anthropological theories about the culture, about the different theorists, about the different anthropologists, about the different. Okay, I will now proceed with other theories of anthropological theories. Okay, so anthropology, as you know, it is the holistic study of humanity. There are various fields of anthropology, as given by Franz Boas: socio-cultural anthropology, physical anthropology, linguistic anthropology. Okay, so over the decades, anthropologist has produced various theories or various theoretical frameworks to explain the complexity of social behavior, the complexity of human behavior, the complexity of culture, the social organization. Okay, so scholars try to interpret why and how societies are different from one another, and why how they are societies are different and how they are integrated, they are united across time and space. Okay, now I will discuss with you cultural materialism. So culture materialism, let us discuss about culture materialism. what is there in cultural materialism. So cultural materialism given by Marvin Harris. Cultural materialism given by Marvin Harris. Okay, so let us discuss that what is there in cultural materialism. So it was developed during the mid 20th century. Okay, classical evolutionism and new evolutionism belong to they were developed in the 19th century, and cultural materialism evolved in the 20th century. Okay, that there are environment, technology. So we are discussing about cultural materialism. Okay, so he divided the culture system into three components. There are three components of culture, that is infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure includes we are producing, we are reproducing, we are various production factors, various ecological factors, environmental factors, production factors, so that affects human survival. Okay, then comes structure. Structure includes political structure, social structure. We have kinship, we have family, we have classes, institutions that has an interaction on that has regulate the human interaction. Then we have superstructure. Okay, so superstructure includes we have belief system, we have that encompasses the religious and symbolic aspects of culture, like beliefs, like rituals, like values. Okay, okay, so it is a scientific and empirically driven approach. Okay, so it it explains how we have to examine the material aspects. Okay, how it shapes culture. Okay, so is it overlooks symbolic and emotional dimensions of human life. Symbolic and emotional dimensions of human life. So culture and materialism. There are talks about the various components of culture system, like infrastructure, the various factors of production, the various factors of ecological factors, and structure, how they interact with each other, political structure, economic structure, and our superstructure, that is a belief system, that is values, how they interact with each other, and how they impact our culture, and how they interact with the various the culture. So it is a basically scientific in nature, and it had developed in the 20th century. So various theories were developed to study the phenomena of culture, how human interact with each other, how our origin of human survival, our origin of social system, the social structure, the political system, the economic system, how it evolves, how it involves culture. So that we are talking about in cultural materialism. So cultural materialism includes the various these cultural materialism given by Marvin Harris. Okay, so it talks about the cultural materialism, talked about the various aspects. Okay, the various aspects of it. Okay, so it was studied about the developed by Marvin Harris. Okay, so uh, what we do, what we believe, and what we value, it depends upon a lot of things depends upon our basic material needs. Basic material needs. Like how we need to survive, how we get food, what technology we use. Okay, so Harry's ideas was inspired by Karl Marx materialistic view. It was inspired by Karl Marx materialistic view. Okay, so he applied this materialistic view of Karl Marx to understand the different societies. Okay, so how people behave in a particular way and how they believe, their belief system, their value system. So we need to look at the practical conditions of their life. We need to look at the material conditions of their life. Like we need to understand the infrastructure, we need to understand the structure, we need to understand the superstructures. Okay, so these all these parts are interconnected. The infrastructure, that is the material part, is the most important because material part influence the other. So when the material condition of life changes, when new for example, when new methods of productions are introduced, when new technology is introduced, when new reproduction, when families phase, population changes, new technology, so infrastructure things, factors of production change. Okay, so what happens, it leads to change in the political system, it leads to change in the economic system, it leads to change in the society structure of the society, and also belief. Okay, so Harris used the example of Hindu taboo against eating beef in India. It is a taboo, food taboo. We try to explain, and if beef eating is banned in India. So it is a taboo by the Hindu. So it you will see that it looks like a religious value, religious rule. But Harry argued that it has some material aspects also, it has some practical aspects also, because cow are the valuable lives, alive are more valuable than dead. So they help grow fields, they help plow fields, they help give milk, produce and dung for fuel and fertilizer. If people had cow, they would lose an essential material resources. But they lose material resources like they lose how to cultivate the food, resources for farming and survival. So the religious belief actually supports an ecological and economic need. Okay, so our religious and belief system. Okay, so our religious and belief our belief system, our religious system depends upon the material necessity, depends upon the material aspects of our life. Okay, it is based upon science and evidences. Okay, so anthropology should study what can be measured, what things can be measured, like production, like environment, like population, not just ideas or stories. Okay, okay, so however critics, how it has certain criticism. Okay, because there are symbolic and interpretative theories of okay, so Harris theories is it is deterministic in nature because it focuses more on material causes and not on beliefs, not on human creativity, not on human emotions. Okay, people okay, so cultural materialism remains an important theory in anthropology. Okay, so it explains how various factors of very material aspects of life, material like technology, like infrastructure, structure, superstructure, environment, food, technology, how it shapes the people, how think, how they act, and how they believe. Okay, okay, so this is about cultural materialistic school of thought. So it basically talks about the various components the various components that is infrastructure, then structure, then superstructure. Okay, so it is a it was Levi-Strauss structuralism. It was developed as a reaction to the Levi-Strauss structuralism. It incorporates ideas from Marxism, culture evolutionism, and culture ecology. Okay, culture ecology you have talked about, and we discussed about culture ecology. Okay. Okay, so we talked about Edmund Lynch, Levi Strauss. Okay, so there are various criticism like Franz Boas, A.L. Kroeber, so Clark Whistler, American School of belong to American School of Diffusionism. Clark Whistler also belong to American School of Diffusionism. So we are talking here about the various this infrastructure, the structure, the environment components of cultural materialism. So it said that material aspects, our belief system, our religion, our structure, superstructure are shaped by the material conditions, that we need food, we need production resources, we need population increase in size, we need reproduction. Okay, so all these things are required, and on this basis our belief system, our religious values are shaped. Okay, that is was all about this Marvin Harry's cultural materialism. Then we have this symbolic and interpretative school of thoughts. So let's discuss about symbolic and interpretative school of thoughts now. So how it talks about how people put emphasis on symbols, on ideas, in order to make to understand the world. Okay, so it was against cultural materialism, that it says that we should not look at the material things like we discussed in cultural materialism. Okay, so it says that how people think, how people feel, how people express their symbols through their culture. Okay, so you have to you to understand a culture, you have to understand, okay, what things mean to the people who live in it. So what is for you to understand the culture, so you have to understand, okay, what it means to you, what things that culture means to you and who live in it. Okay, so we have Clifford Geach, we have Victor Turner. Okay, so Victor Turner studied about Ndambu people of Africa. Victor Turner studied about Ndambu people of Africa. Okay, so what are symbols? He said that the religious ceremonies, the customs, the traditions, the rituals, what are they? They are not just tradition; they are just symbols. Okay, okay. So it help it help people deal with you see certain changes in life. You give birth, you marriage, you people die, people marriage, people leave, people born, people are born. So these symbols, these ceremonies, these customs, these traditions, they help to deal with such different aspects of life, various changes in life that he talks about. So he studied about Ndambu people of Africa. Okay, so he talked about the idea of liminality and communitas. Victor Turner talked about liminalities and communitas. So uh, liminality means lying things in between. In between means liminality. Okay, so you when you are in different stages of life, you people perform rituals. People often go through different stages. Okay, where they are no longer what they were before, but not yet what they will become. It is a in between stage. For example, during an initiation ceremony, who is no longer a child but not yet an adult. But during a certain ceremony, initiation ceremony, he is no longer a child but also not adult, but he is between the stage of adult and child. So in between this in between stage, people experience communitas. Okay, so people experience unity, people experience a feeling of unity and equality. Okay, so here everyone feels connected with each other. So Victor Turner believed that rituals and symbols hold many meanings at once, and help keep societies by expressing shared emotions and values. So Victor Turner belongs to symbolic and interpretative school of thought. So Victor Turner belongs to school. Victor Turner belongs to interpretative, and he belongs to liminality school of thought. He said that people celebrate ceremonies, people participate in rituals, and it is because they are not just tradition, but they are like symbols, and these symbols help to enjoy, to pass through different, to help people change different stages of life, like birth, like death, like marriages. Arnold talked about the liminality, that is in between stages. It is a middle stage, and in the middle stage, in liminality stage, you experience communitas. It means people feel that they are equal, they feel united. Okay, and it help keep societies together by sharing emotions. That is something about Victor Turner. Victor Turner, then also Schneider studied about kinship. Okay, so he studied second David Segregator said that kinship is not the same everywhere. Okay, okay. So people have different culture meanings. It is a not just biology. For example, in American culture, family is all based on the idea of blood and love. But in other countries, okay, family ties may be based on living together, sharing food, symbolic connection. So kinship is not just a biological fact; it is also a symbolic and cultural idea. It is also a cultural idea. It is also a cultural fact. It is also a symbolic fact. So David Schneider studied about the various kinship, and he said that kinship is not based upon only biological fact, and he said that it is also people. It's not that people who are born together, who are blood relation, they are kinship, but people who live together, who eat same food, who have economic cooperation with them, who have other who have lived together, they are also constitute family. So family have different meanings for them in different societies. So that David Sagnider talks about the symbolic and interpretative theory of ticket. So David Sagnider studied it is not the same everywhere. Okay. Okay, so then becomes Clifford Geertz. Clifford Geertz. So Clifford Geertz, we have talked about. It is the one of the most famous interpretive anthropologist. So David Schneider and this Victor Turner, they belong to symbolic school of thought, whereas Clifford Geertz is an important interpretative anthropologist, famous interpretative anthropologist. Okay, he said that culture is like a web of meanings. Culture is like a symbols. It has a meanings. People create so many meanings and live with it. Okay, so we we are anthropologists. Our job is to read all the meanings, okay, and interpret those all meanings like reading a book. Okay, so Keats called this method as thick description. He gave thick description mean describing not just what people do, but their actions mean to them. So it means not just what people do, but their actions, what they are doing, some actions. Not only describe what people do, but what they do, what their actions, and what they mean to them. That is called thrift description. For example, in the Balinese cockfight, we should not study that they do cockfight. They do cockfight. It is not just a gambling or support. It represents a pride, represents a social status. So it is a symbol. So we understand the deep meaning, the thick description of the Balinese cockfight. It is not just a fighting. We are doing a Balinese cockfight. So it is we have to read and interpret those meanings, those symbols. We have to understand the meanings and what did they mean to it. So what is Balinese cockfight mean for them? It is like a social status, pride, rivalry. Okay, so symbolic and interpretative anthropology so teaches us that culture is not about a survival or economics. So symbolic and interpretative anthropology teaches us that culture is not only about survival, or but it is about symbols. We are symbols. It has certain meanings. We should focus on meanings. We should focus on emotions. We should focus on understandings, like cultural materialism is different from symbolic school of thought, symbolic and interpretative school of thought. We have to study the symbols, we have to understand the symbols and the symbols mean to them, and we have to do thick description of it. We have to see liminality concept and communitas in that. Okay, so but this approach is too cultural materialism is deterministic in nature, but this symbolic and interpretative theory is like subjective theory, because we cannot understand the meaning scientifically. Okay, so it helps people focus more on human experiences. Okay, and understanding people from their own view of point. So that is about Clifford Geertz threat description, Balinese cockfight, David Schneider kinship studies, then Victor Turner studies the Ndambu people of Africa. So Victor Turner studying the Ndambu people of Africa. Okay, so we are here to discuss the this symbolic and interpretative theory. Okay, so the symbolic and interpretative theory emerged in the 1960s and in the 1970s. You must remember that how what is the time period of their emergence? Why do they come? Why what was the reason for coming of symbolic and interpretative theory? Symbolic and interpretative theory because it was too materialistic in nature. It does not focus on the emotional side, does not focus on the meaning, the symbols, so that it focused on. Okay, so these approaches focus on meaning, the symbols, the human experiences. Okay, so culture is a web of symbols. So we give meaning, we give interpretation of it. Okay, so Victor Turner, so influenced by structural functionalism, okay, and later by symbolic interactionism. So he studied ritual process among the Ndambu of Zambia. So the concept of ritual process liminality, okay, how rituals serves as a it serves as a social identity among them. It reinforces social cohesion. It transformative experiences. Rituals express underlying social tensions, experience communitas, a sense of equality, sense of unity. Okay, symbols are just like rituals are there, symbols are there, ritual objects or gestures. Okay, it has different meanings. Okay, so it unite the people. So David Segnator focused on the idea of kinship and culture. Okay, so kinship is not only a universal biological phenomenon, but a social structure instead. The kinship are just like a cultural constructs. Okay, that there are cultural construct. It has different symbols. It has different meanings. Okay, so they have us in a kinship. There is a symbol of blood and love concept that do not carry the. So for others, kinship does not have symbols like blood and love. So uh, so, function is work shifted from the functional and structural aspects of kinship, okay, to the cultural meanings. How the cultural meanings attached to the kinship, not only the biological meaning attached to the kinship, not the structural meaning attached to the kinship, in the way how the people they conceptualized. In the same way, Clifford explained that it has a meaning of it. It has an interpretation of the meaning. It has a web of significances. Okay, the task of anthropology is not to discover universal laws but to interpret meaning within their local context. Is called thick description. Okay, so he discussed about deep play notes on the Balinese cockfight. Okay, deep play notes on the Balinese cockfight. Clifford Geertz. Then we have David Segnator. Then we have Victor Turner. Ndambu of Africa. Rituals is mean to them. They play with rituals. They have different rituals. They have different symbols in it. They have different meanings in that. It helps to transform into equality, social cohesion, these rituals. Okay, they it being social bonding in them. Then for balanced David Signature, that kinship is not it like they have a symbols of love attached with these Clifford Gage concept. And this David then we have Clifford Gage gives us that thick description of the Balinese cockfight. That Balinese cockfight has it has certain symbols, it has certain culture words has different meanings for them. What we need to understand the meaning. What is what did the Balinese cockfight mean for the Bali people, and what does the rituals mean for them? What do they do? What do they bring transformation from the social cohesion? They bring unity. It brings out equality in them. Okay, that is explained by culture and materialistic, the symbolic and interpretative school of thought. Okay, then we have Victor Turner. We have already discussed. Okay, then we have another theory, that is a symbolic and interpretative theory we have discussed so far. Then we have cognitive theories. So cognitive theories looks at how people. So we are so far we have discussed about the various theories, like cultures of various meanings of it. So we have discussed about symbols, social cohesion, the unity, solidarity of it, functions of it, the various needs, the various Nadambu of Africa. We have studied the various societies, like Margaret Mead, culture and personality school of thought. We structured the functions of the society, the various meaning between them, the various meanings that are associated with them, and what do they do for in it. That is called cognitive theory, given by, let us now discuss cognitive theory, Stephen Tylor and Harold Conklin. So Stephen Tylor and Harold Conklin gives this cognitive theory. So cognitive theory is what is there in the mind of the people, their thinking process, how people think. Okay, and how they categorize the world in their minds. So cognitive theories, there were two anthropologists that belong to cognitive theories. That is Stephen Tylor and Harold Conklin. So cognitive theories talk about that how studied that how people think about the society, how people think and feel, and they understand and interpret the world in their minds. Okay, so instead of okay, so cognitive and uh, this various theories, like uh, there is Stephen Tyler. The culture. What does Stephen Tyler say? Stephen Tyler says that culture is basically, what is that? It is a cognitive system. So it is a cognitive system. So culture is a collection of shared ideas, beliefs. So Stephen Tyler said that culture is basically it's like a cognitive system. Okay, so it's like a collection of we have ideas in there. We have various cultures, various traditions, various rituals, knowledge. Okay, so they are stored in people's mind. Okay, so this uh, knowledge that is stored in our mind, it helps the people communicate in a similar ways. Okay, so Stephen Tyler said about cognitive anthropology. Okay, so it's like we have a shared knowledge. Why do we have a shared knowledge? Shared knowledge, we have uh, we have knowledge, we have rules. So these are stored in people's mind. That is why it is called a shared knowledge. Okay, so and it helps to make understand the world, how people think, what is there in our mind, how they understand, how they organize, how they categorize the world into their minds. So Stephen Tyler So Stephen Tyler, culture is like a cognitive system. So Stephen Tyler. So then, like we study, we use, we people classify things, how we classify colors, how we classify animals, how we classify relatives. So because every way we have different language through which we are able to group colors or family members and show how people think about their world, how we people think about their world. हम क्या we categorize the colors, we categorize the symbols, we categorize the and family members, and it is because of this that we people we have different ways of. It is because of knowledge, what we think, what we think, how we think about the world, how these categories, groups or family members, how these categories, how people think about their world. That is called Stephen Tyler. Then we have Harold Conklin. So Harold Conklin also belongs to cognitive school of thought like Stephen Tyler. So Harold Conklin did fieldwork among the Hanuno people in the Philippines. He studied people of Philippines. So we use different names for animals, for colors, for plants. Okay. So they have different type names for the plants, for soils, based upon the color, the texture, and the use. So it was not random or primitive. So it is the sophisticated way of organizing. We have organized knowledge about the environment. So cognitive anthropology theory tells us that culture lives not just in what people do, but also in what they do and how they think. Sirf how people do, why people do, what they know, and how they think. Okay. So these theories ignore about inequalities because it focuses too much on the mind, but it helps the people from different cultures see the world and categorize, classify the world in different but equally logical ways. That is called cognitive theory of anthropology. So cognitive theory of anthropology. Okay, so we need to discuss about cognitive theory of anthropology. Okay, so there were two anthropologists. Stephen Tyler say that we we understand the world around them. We understand the colors. We understand the give different names to the colors. We give different names to the symbols. Okay, and this is our way of organizing. This is because of the knowledge that is stored in our mind, that we organize the world around us in a logical manner, in a similar fashion, in different culture. So we apply knowledge in our minds and we make sense of the things that they see in everyday life. How people think is the study of how people think, how people understand the world around them. It is about that. Okay. So cognitive anthropologist, culture is not just what people do. It is about why do they do and how they think. So there is a knowledge. The culture lives in our mind and it is a shared knowledge. So instead of studying on the behavior, the rituals, the symbols, so how people mentally organize the world, how do they create mental maps to make sense of the world? That is about cognitive anthropology. Then we have used ideas that we use language, we use psychology, we use classification. It is like culture is like a cognitive system. It is everything stored in our mind. Okay, so blue and green. Some languages we have divided the color spectrum in different way. May have different words for shades of one color. So some people group members differently. Some call it old male relative, and others have separate for uncle, brothers. We studied about the kinship terminology. We see that in some culture we use uncle, aunt, while in other culture we may use the same relatives as brothers and fathers and mothers. Okay, how we understand the world, how we organize the knowledge in its logical way. Okay, so how people. So Tyler's main point was that studying this thought pattern, we should study these thought patterns, study these logical ideas. Then Harold Conklin studied Hanuno people, that how people organize colors, okay, how people classify plants, animals, and soils in a different way. Okay, it was in a very detailed way, in a very organized way. They have hundreds of words to describe different kinds of plants and soil. They categorize the plants and soils on the basis of color, on the basis of texture, on the basis of use. Okay, so that is why. Why is it is important? So some people may think differently, but they have a logical way. They have a own logic and own intelligence. Have their own way of seeing the name, understanding the world, the soil, the color. It focuses on the mind and the knowledge. It does focus on the emotions, the feelings. That is about Harald Conklin theory. Okay, so we have discussed about symbolic and interpretative theory of theory. Symbols, we must understand the symbols, what the meaning assigned to it. We must understand the logic behind that. Okay, so cultures has different meaning. It has different symbols. We should culture has a meaning. We should interpret the meaning. Like Balinese cockfight. Why do they Balinese cockfight? Nedampu culture, the rituals. But cognitive theory, there is something in the mind. The knowledge is there. And you categorize the world in a logical way, in a scientific way. That is the difference between symbolic and interpretative theory and cognitive theory. Victor Turner's theory. Okay. So I was talking about cognitive theory by Tylor and Conklin. Then I am discussing with you last theory, that is postmodernism in anthropology. That is postmodernism in anthropology that we are going to discuss. We are going to discuss postmodernism in anthropology. So we have discussed about various theories, the culture, the symbols, the meaning, the organization, the culture, the social organization, the political organization, the belief system, the value system, the knowledge, E.B. Tylor, various anthropologists' name. Okay, so postmodernism, it also became popular in the 1980s. So anthropologists, how we look at culture and even their own work. Before postmodernism, anthropologists believed that they could study the other cultures objectively. Like scientists study facts, in the same way we can study the culture subjectively. They thought that they could observe the people, take notes, and then write the truth about the culture. But postmodernism disagreed. They say that it is impossible to be completely objective because every anthropologist see the world through their own eyes. They have own belief system, they have own background, they have own knowledge system. In other words, what an anthropologist writes is not the full truth. It's just one version of reality told from their own, they told their own point of view. It is one version of their own reality. It is postmodernism in this anthropology that they can do objective study, they can do scientific study, but postmodernism say that it is not possible to study objective view of anthropologists because they study the culture, society, social institutions, religious institutions, political institutions from their own point of view, and they there occurs a sense of stereotyping, biasness. It is not the full truth. So there were the main ideas of okay. So that is something about various ideas. So main ideas of we will discuss about main ideas of this postmodernism. What is postmodernism? That we are going to discuss in postmodernism theory of anthropology. Okay. So let us see that. What is there in postmodernism? What is there in postmodernism? Okay. So what are their thinkers, their contributions, their accomplishments? Okay. So their thinkers, their contribution, you must understand. You must understand it. Okay. What is postmodernism? Okay. So we are talking about the postmodernism, the last theory of anthropological theories. Okay. So I was talking about postmodernism. Okay. Postmodernism. That is modernism. What is postmodernism? Okay. Various thinkers and their contributions. Okay. So you must understand. So it became popular in the 1980s. Okay. We are studying scientists. We are observing, finding facts in a lab. Okay. So postmodernism disagreed. Okay. So main ideas of postmodernism are reflexivity. So reflexivity means self-awareness. They should be honest about who they are and how their background can affect their work. Yes, they must. Okay. For example, Western anthropologist, when studying an African village, he should think that how their own culture, their language, their race, their gender might influence what they see and how they interpret it. Okay. So aware of one's influence is called reflexivity. That is self-awareness. That is aware of oneself. It is called self-reflexivity. So we have various thinkers. Okay. James Clifford and George Marcus. Rosaldo. There are various thinkers. Then multiple voices. In traditional anthropology, anthropologist voice was the most powerful. Okay. They wrote books and articles as if they spoke for the people they studied. They had multiple voices. They were so confident that they are writing about them. They are their spokesperson. But challenge this idea. So people being studied should have voice in how their culture is described, their stories, their experiences, their ideas, their viewpoints. Okay. So modern ethnographies they began to include their stories, their conversations, the direct quotes from the people themselves. So in this way, readers can understand the various perspectives. They were multiple voices means they say that they are the spokesperson of their, but they have no right to discuss their own viewpoint. So modern ethographers they started writing about the various ethnographies. Okay, the various studies, the various concepts, the various views. So we have James Clifford, we have George Marcus, we have Rosaldo, then we have Leela Abulaghod and Kiran Narayan and Ruth Bihar. She should give voice to the local people. Okay, Kiran Narayan, Ruth Bihar, Leela Abu Laghod. No single truth. There is no absolute truth. Reflexivity, multiple voices, nor is no single truth about any culture. Every person experiences culture, understands the world differently. We should not study for grand theory, explains all human behavior, individual experiences, and local meanings. All knowledge is relative. It depends upon who you are and where you come from and how you see the world. No single truth. That is Michael Foucault. Michael Foucault. Okay. So Clifford, Jean Francois Loitar. Okay. Leela Abu Lughod. So they are the various postmodernism. So the writing culture movement, a major turning point for post-modernism anthropologists came from the book Writing Culture, edited by James Clifford and George Marcus. This book argued that when people anthropologists write about other people, they are not simply reporting facts; they are telling a story. The way they choose words, the way they structure their writing or describe other reflects their own background and their own biasness, their culture. Community is primitive, simple. This language reveals more about the anthropologist's worldview than about the people themselves. Because of this, postmodernism encourages anthropologists to change their writing style to include reflection, to acknowledge uncertainty, to let the voices of the people in the street be heard more clearly. So James Clifford, George Marcus, Mary Louise Pratt. Okay, so post and modernism matters. It made anthropologists more self-aware, more ethical, more sensitive. They are not neutral observers. Okay. Culture is not fixed or uniform. People within the same society can have different views, experiences, and interpretation. Okay. So postmodernism encouraged anthropologists to listen more carefully to the people to study. So even though postmodernism brought important changes, not everyone agreed with it. Some critics said it went too far by rejecting the idea of truth or scientific study. If everything is just a story, how can anthropology build knowledge or compare culture? On if other argued the postmodernism became too focused on writing and theory, ignoring the real world problems like poverty, inequality, politics, anthropologists such as Nancy Paul Farmer argued that anthropology should still address serious social issues, not just play with words. Okay, so we have various names: Michael Foucault, George Marcus, James Clifford, George Marcus, Michael Foucault, then Jeff Loitard, Jeff Loitard, Michael Foucault, Jeff Loitard, Lila Abu Laghor, Rosaldo, Pratt. Okay, so they say that there is not any single theory which can explain all the phenomena. We can't study objectivity. Talk about reflexivity. The voices of local people should be heard. Culture is changing, diverse, and complex, not fixed or uniform. It's not just recording facts, it is interpreting stories. Even though it can be confusing, made open-minded and human, people, it reminded researchers that understanding people means listening, questioning and sharing, not just observing and judging. Listening, questioning, sharing, not just observing and judging. So James Clifford, George Marcus, okay, Michael Foucault, J.F. Loytodd, Lila Abu, Rosaldo, M.L. Pratt. Okay. So that was discussion about postmodernism, the various anthropologists, the various theories, the various discussion. So just a so these were the theories of modernism, the anthropological theories. You must understand the various anthropological theories. Okay. So I was just sharing with you the various theories, anthropological theories. We have so many anthropological theories, okay, that we are going to discuss over here. These are various theories that are going to be discussed over here. So let us just go through the various theories. Like we studied now cognitive anthropology, cultural materialism given by Marvin Harris. He talked about studying the material aspects of culture, like studying the infrastructure, the superstructure. Okay, he gave the example of food taboo of eating beef in India. So these infrastructure, material aspects, various factors of production, reproduction, so are these going to influence the social structure, infrastructure, social structure, political institution, economic institution, and also will affect the superstructures, ideas, views, viewpoints. So this was said by Marvin Harris. So this was said by Marvin Harris. So infrastructure, structure, and superstructure. So culture basically is nothing but material condition. What we eat, what food we eat, what is our environment, what is our economy. So all these shapes culture. Okay, because cows are more that believe that food taboo, it is superstructure, and it is because of the infrastructure, the Because it is a material aspect, we are able to use it for farming and milk. So we should focus upon material needs. So culture is shaped by many things. Then we have, so people's belief system, culture system comes from the material needs. So symbolic and interpretative theory given by Turner, studied about Nadambo, David Schneider, studied about the kinship, and Clifford Geertz, who studied about the Balinese cockfight, that we stand the symbols. There are symbols that is associated with the culture. We should understand the symbols. We should understand the meanings associated with the culture and interpret the meaning. Like Victor Turner, Ndambu in of Africa. Like Victor Turner also explained about liminality, in between, and communitas. That is, it explained to how these develop a sense of equality, sense of unity, social solidarity among us. It is a web of meaning. Okay, so symbols help. Like what are symbols? Rituals, cultures. They help people express emotions and build unity. Symbolic and interpretative theory. The kinship are based upon not only on blood relation, like blood and but they are based upon, it has culture meanings too. There are culture symbols too. Clifford gives thick description. Okay. Then cognitive theory, we have discussing about Harun Cognado, Stephen Conklin, Stephen Tylor. So culture is basically what is there, knowledge stored in our mind, that we understand the world, we give the meaning to it, to the world. So that knowledge helps us to understand the world in a logical manner and an organized manner. Harold Conklin studied Hanuno people, how they, based upon their knowledge, they organize the different types of plants, animals, soils, based upon their they have a logical system based upon the knowledge they are organizing. So culture is lives in human minds. It is how we see and classify the world. So culture, shared knowledge exists in our mind, that we studied the world around us. That is cognitive theory. So postmodernism, it emerged in the 1980s. So they said that anthropologists can never be objective. So like thinkers like James Clifford, then George Marcus. Okay. So they, with the various ideas of postmodernism are, they should be self-reflexive. Reflexivity should be there. Then multiple voices. Then no single truth. They are just like writing stories. They should be open-minded, broad, biased, less ethical. So So we said that when we talk about, there is cognitive theory, okay, Clifford, Marcus, and Abu Laghod, AbuLughod, Abu Laghod. Okay, so basically classical evolutionism, we talk about the culture moves in stages. Historical particularism means every culture has its own history. Okay, diffusionism, culture spread from one place to another place. Smith, Grabner, Krober, functionalism, performs at functions. Malinowski, Mead's society order, Radcliffe-Brown, structuralism. The structure means our mind shapes, deep structure shapes the culture, mental patterns shape the culture. Levi Strauss, Edmund Leach, the elementary structure of kinship, Edmund Leach, and Edmund Strauss, like myths, like folk tales, we are organizing it. That structuralism, we studied the social structure, the structuralism, the structure inside our mind, the mental pattern, the mental structure in our mind. It also shape culture. Culture and personality. Culture shapes personality. Neo evolutionism. Culture evolved, but it differently. Culture materialism. Material life aspects impacts culture. Symbolic and interpretive theory. Culture is made up of meanings. We should understand the meanings. Turner, Schneider, Geertz. Cognitive theory. Culture is what shared knowledge. It's what is the difference between cognitive theory and structuralism? So structuralism is a common mental patterns. We have common mental patterns. We have common structure that shape our culture. And in cognitive theory, we have culture is a shared knowledge. Is a shared knowledge. And what is that shared knowledge? We have a knowledge of culture stored in our mind. Post-modernism, no single truth, self-awareness. So we have discussed about the various anthropological theories. Okay, you must understand. You should understand the various meanings of it. So you must go for understanding deep meaning, the thick description. So our mind is there. Our mind is structure of the mind. We should talk about the structure of the mind. We should organize binary opposition. Is talked about. Okay. So structuralism focus on universal mental structure, where cognitive theory focus on culture specific mental system, how each group organizes knowledge differently. So you must understand structuralism studies myths, studies stories, studies symbols, kinship. Cognitive theory studies use language and classifications, studies like naming system for plants and colors to understand people think in daily life. Okay. So Harold Conklin, Hanuno people. Yes. So deep mental patterns studies languages and classification, studies deep mental structures, deep mental pattern, specific mental system, universal mental pattern, and specific mental system. How human minds are alike. Okay. How each culture's thinking is unique. So structuralism, how our human minds are alike, think in the same way, organize the world, deep structures, thick description, liminality, communitas, how universalist, how our human minds are alike, universal mental structure, and how each culture thinking is unique, how culture thinking is unique, and how our cultures are alike, and how each culture's thinking is unique. That is the main difference between. We have binary oppositions, life and deaths. Okay. Common mental structures, cultural knowledge system. Okay. So it is descriptive and practical. It is theoretical and abstract. How people think in each culture. How people think in each culture. How thinking is unique. Deep mental structure. Universal thinking. Universal mental patterns. How people think. Universal mental patterns and how people each think in each society. So that is, we are studying about the various cultures, the various theories, anthropological theories. We studied about a lot of concepts. We studied about, it gives a lot of directions. We are studying about socio-cultural anthropology, family, marriage, religion, political system, relationship. Okay, then we also studied about prehistoric cultures. We also studied about culture and civilization. We also studied about primates. Okay, so that we are going to have a detailed discussion of anthropology. So structuralism says how there are universal mental patterns, and this cognitive anthropology how each human, how each culture's thinking is unique. That is difference between structuralism and cognitive theories. How it is that? You must understand about it. We are studying the deep meaning of it. We are studying the thick description. We are studying the mind in our mind, the thought process, organization of the world, how we name different plants and animals according to colors, on the basis of colors, on the basis of textures, on the basis of symbols. And interpretative theory, there are meanings of it. We understand the meanings. There are symbols of it. We symbols understand the culture. There is symbols, nothing but its culture. That it helps to see how people behave in a certain way, how people act in a way. It studies myths, studies stories, kinship system, symbols. Cognitive theory studies usage of language and classification studies. Okay, like kinship terminologies, that is called example of cognitive theory. Will use language and classification systems. That is an example of cognitive theory. Then structuralism, we are studying the structures that is lies in our mind, that things are in our mind, that what we view in our mind, what we are thinking about our mind. That we are studying the different societies, the different cultures, the different organizations of the society. We studied the different things. So the theory helps us to understand the human societies, the human culture, the human mind, the human symbols. We understand the how culture evolves, how functions performed the way the various cultures. We also understand the universal mental patterns, how each culture is unique, what is there in our mind, how we structure the things, how we how it satisfy the needs of the society, how culture fulfills needs of individual, how culture fulfills the basic needs of society, how this culture spread from one place to another place to the other world, how the culture is unique, how the culture is different, how the culture, we study the emotions, we study the thinking pattern, we study the practical material needs affect the religious belief. Okay, then we also studied how the culture moves in the unilinear fashion, how the culture moves in the multilinear fashion, how we studied the different books of the name of the various authors, that they combine the books, that they study the different cultures, the study the ethnographics, the post-modernism says that it is objective studies cannot be done objectively. We should focus on ethicals. We should study our own way, our own culture, where do we come from, so as to have knowledge of the culture. We should have we should the various aspects of postmodernism are skepticism, then multi voices, then no single use theory, no single theory. It is not required to build grand theories, but we should try to build unique theories, unique to culture. So he studied the myths from many culture. Okay, so people organize, people study the world, people make understanding of the world through the binary oppositions, like like life, death, then nature, nurture, to the organized stories and cultural cognitive theories. We are Hanuno people. They have discussed a lot of things about it. We are discussing going into detail the various cultures of the theory, the various theories, the various anthropological theories. We talked about the various theories. We talked about the various aspects of the theories that we are going to discuss over here. Okay, we should discuss, we should not, we should be able to discuss it in detail. So we are going to discuss the culture, how the culture is moving, how the culture is progressing, how the different phenomena are explaining the different constituents of culture, the different knowledge, the beliefs, how they are progressing, how they are diffusing, how the culture is moving, how the we are discussing about cultural evolution, like we have discussed the biological evolution through the various theories. The various theorists came it about the theory used to analyze the society, the social institutions, the various political institutions, their evolution, their progress, their growth, how the various like the symbols, the meaning of the culture, the underlying, the deep structures, the deep patterns in it. We The various objectivity, the various scientific disciplines, the various discreticism of these theories. Some is very subjective theory, while the other is more talking about psychic unity of mind. Like they are more descriptive in nature. They are more scientific in nature. They give a new direction to the anthropology is okay. Then wow, the origin, okay. So you must understand, okay. So we must discuss about, okay. So when I was discussing with you, okay, so the classical evolutionism theory, it so it late it came in the late 19th century, like 1830 to 1890s. Classical evolutionism, how culture is going and it is evolving, okay, how it is passing through the different stages, how the human progression is there, how the evolved evolution of religion is there, okay. So it then comes historical particularism. So the classical evolutionism came in the late 19th century, mid to late 19th century. It came in the early 20th century, that is 1990s to 1932. Historical particularism, so main thinkers was Franz Boas. Okay, then I am discussing with you the diffusionism. So diffusionism came in the late 19th century to the early 20th century. So the time of origin of classical this historical particularism, the last phase of the classical evolutionism led to the emergence of the diffusionism, that is came in the late 19th century and in the early 20th century. Okay, then come historical particularism. So how it is getting ideas from here and there, cultures are getting idea from here and there, and they are spreading to the other parts of the world. They are getting idea, okay. There is a spread of cultural traits from one culture, so they should talk about their own field work. It has its own unique society, okay, how the culture progress from simple to society, like savage to civilization, okay. Then we are discussing about functionalism. So functionalism time period is early early 20th century to mid 20th century. Early 20th century also came in the functionalism came in the mid early 20th century, and the functionalism also came in the structural functionalism also came in the early 20th century to mid 20th century, like and also structuralism also came in the early 20th century to mid 20th century. And before that, the diffusionism came in the late 19th century to early 20th century. Okay, then after that, historical particularism. So this classical evolutionism, they all these theories came in the 19th century, 19th century. Some came in the mid 19th century, some came in the late 19th century, like a diffusionism. And the functionalism came in the early 20th century. Okay, and the structuralism came in the early 1930 to 1950s. Okay, so all parts work together like a structure. They work together like a structure to keep the society stable. Okay, focus is on all parts: family, law, religion. They are the parts. Okay, has a function, meet the basic need: food, shelter, safety. Then structuralism came in the 1950s to 1970, that is C.V. Levi-Strauss, and mid 70s. Then culture and personality school of thought, it came in the 1930s to 1950s. Then less structuralism came after the culture and personality school of thought in the 1950s. And new evolutionism came in the 1940s to 1970s. Then cultural materialism came in the 1960s to 1980s. Okay, structural they came in the 1960s to 1980s. Then cognitive theories came in the 1950s to 1970s. And postmodernism came in the 1980s to late 20th century. Okay, so there is no single truth about any culture. Anthropologists cannot be fully objective. They must be reflexive. They must be reflexive. Okay, they must be subjectivity, reflexivity, and multiple interpretation of culture. Okay, so old, so every culture is unique. Culture, we are talking about culture, we are talking about institutions, we are talking about mental patterns, hidden mental patterns, we are talking about structure, we are talking about a cognitive patterns, we are talking about environment and evolutionism, we are talking about the meeting how people think and classify. No single truth. Okay, so early theories. So early, we are talking about early theories, we are talking about mid theories, middle theories. So evolutionism, diffusionism, and this very historical particularism, these are called the earlier theories, that is came in the 1800 to 1930s. Then middle theories came in the period 1930s to 1970s, that is functionalism, structuralism. Then culture and personality school of thought, new evolutionism. Then come modern theories, that is cultural materialism, symbolic interpretive theory, cognitive, postmodernism. They are the modern theories. So early theories, middle theories, then modern theories. Okay, so we are studying the theories, the cultures of various societies, various institutions from the different perspectives. Okay, so we are going to understand it. We are going to make it so easy, so comfortable. Okay, so we are here to understand the various earlier theories, like. We are going to discuss about we are going to discuss about evolutionism, we are going to discuss about diffusionism, we are going to discuss about historical particularism. So these three theories, they come under the early theories. Then comes middle theories, includes they came in the 1930 to 1970s, 1930 to 1970s, 1800 to 1890s, 1800 to 1930s, then 1930s to 1970s. These are functionalism, structuralism, then the cultural personality school of thought, new evolutionism. Then modern theories are cognitive theories, cultural theories, symbolic and interpretative theories, and postmodernism. So these theories came in the 1960s to the present. So I have given about the various time period of the theories, the various theories, what are main thinkers of these theories, then main focus of these theories I have discussed with you. Okay, James Clifford, George Marcus. Okay, James Clifford and Marcus. Okay, James Clifford and Marcus. Okay, then we are discussing about the various theories of James Clifford and James Marcus. Okay, guys, you must understand about it. The various theories, the various descriptions of these theories that we are going to. Okay, that is we are going to discuss about it in the near future. So we are talking about the various theories, how they are progressing, how they are evolving, how culture evolve in a similar fashion, in a multilinear fashion, the different like Childe, White, Whitby, Ward, still. So we are talking about the culture here and there. It is about the culture. It is about the movement of the culture. It is about the spread of the culture. It is about the different societies. We are studying about modern societies. We are studying about the primitive societies. We are studying about the culture evolution. We are studying about the like prehistoric culture, that is a Mesolithic culture, Paleolithic culture. So these are progression of the society. We have studied about the various thinkers like a Child, Leslie White, James Stewart, Sahlins service, James Stewart. That I just forgot the name of James Stewart. So Julian Stewart. So Julian Stewart gave the concept of cultural ecology. Okay, he was a new evolutionist. So cultural materialism, symbolic and interpretative theories, cognitive theories, post-modernism and anthropological theories. So these theories comes under the modern theories. So we are discussing about earlier theories, we are discussing about middle theories, we are discussing about modern theories, so that we are going to interpret and understand it in a very understanding manner. So guys, in this video I have tried to elaborate the discussions of various theories, the discussions of various anthropological theories, the various interpretation of theories. Okay guys, so I just made I just discussed about it, the various like how the Kardiner said that how child rearing practices they shape the basic personality structure. Cora-du Boas discussed about model personality. Okay, Linton explained how personality develops through social roles and cultural learning. Okay, so that was the main culture and personality school of thought. Okay, then we are discussing about new evolutionism. So new evolutionism, so culture, personality, school of thought, contemporary examples I have discussed with you. Okay, so okay, so I had also discussed with you structuralism theory is something very abstract theory and very theoretical theory. Okay, it focuses on hidden mental structures. Okay, so it focus other ignores other that shape the culture. Okay, so passive carriers of mental rules are than active agents, secret and change mind. So it overgeneralize. Are human being thinks the same way? Structuralism says that there are universal mental patterns in our body, and we all human beings thinks in the same way. Okay, so that is about a structuralism. Okay, so Levi-Strauss, like binary opposition, like Edmund Lynch also talks about Edmund Lynch about Kanchin people of Burma, Kanchin people of Burma, political system of Highland Burma, that is Kanchin people of Highland Burma. Okay, so there are various the people is around think about in binary oppositions. Okay, so that is why the opposition even modern societies think in structurally similar ways. Okay, so we have it is very too abstract, it is very generalized, over generalized, it is theoretical, in theories are theoretical in nature. Okay, so I was discussing Kachin people of Burma and Amazon tribes, I was discussing with you. Okay, then I also discuss with you the various cognitive theories like Tylor and Conklin. Okay, then Tylor and Conklin, I also discussed cultural materialism. I also discussed with you. Okay, then I've also discussed with you new evolutionism. Okay, Leslie White focus on energy. Julian Stewart focus on cultural ecologies. So how societies they adapt to various environment. Then Julian Stewart. Okay, then V.D. Gordon Child discuss about material evolution. Marshall Sahlins discuss about generalized evolution and specific evolution. Okay, so that we were discussing about culture and personality school of thought. Ruth Benedict in the book Patterns of Culture studied about Quaicutal, okay, Quaicutal society. Okay, Okay, so functionalism and structuralism I have discussed with you already. Okay, then we have discussed with you British classical evolutionism. Okay, theories I have discussed with you. Okay, so these are the various theories that are I have discussed with you. Okay, the various forms, okay, the various theories, the various like structuralism, like various examples I have given with you, tribal examples, contemporary examples. Okay, so that is you must understand about it. Okay, how the with Benedict like pattern of culture like Waikutul, Zuni, Dobu. Okay, so Dobu are suspicion and hostile. Kwaikutlas proud and competitive. Okay, three cultures. So Zonu, uh, Kwaikutal, Pueblo Zuni, and Dobu. So Ruth Benedict studies about these three cultures. Margaret Yukumimaperin Samoa, Ralph Linton, Abraham Kardiner, and Cora-du Bois refined the idea through the concept of basic personality structure. Okay, so child rearing practices and early social experiences. Okay, so Zuni, Kwaikutal, Dobu studied about the different societies of Ruth Benedict, about the Margaret Mead. We have discussing about it, the theories in the very detail that we have discussed. So we are here to culture personality school of thought. Ruth Benedict studied the different societies. Margaret Mead also studied the coming of age in Samoa. Sex and temperament, three primitive societies like Arapesh, Mundugamar, and Ralph Linton. Okay, then Margaret Mead, Ralph Linton, Abraham Kardiner, and Cora-du Boas. Okay, they studied a different culture. Okay, so that people how the people are the products of their culture. Okay, what maybe learned behavior. Okay, so new evolution we have discussed about Ralph Linton, discussed about status, what a position a person hold, and what are the behavior expected from the individual. Role means the behavior expected, and the status means the position, the position a person hold. Abraham Kardiner. Abraham Kardiner is like child reading practices shape basic personality, shapes culture. Okay, so we have discussed about Cora-du Bois. Okay, so Cora-du Bois studied Alori's culture, Comanche culture. Okay, so we have discussed about Linton, we discussed Cardinger. Okay, then dubious like model personality. Okay, so they we have broader cultural system. We are linking the culture, how the people are the products of their culture, how the personality are the products of their culture, and the culture impacts the personality. So we are discussed about the symbolic and interpretive theories of culture. We are discussed about the various theories of culture, the various theories of motivation, the various theories of origin of culture, like various theorists. We have discussed in it. Okay, so when I discussed with you this uh, uh, evolutionism, I also discussed with you new evolutionism. Okay, so in new evolutionism, we Gordon Childe wrote a book, Social Evolutionism. You must remember Social Evolution. Leslie White, I have discussed it with you, explain the concept of energy. Then Julian Stewart wrote a theory of culture change, the methodology of multilinear evolution. Okay, so Julian Stewart also explained unilinear evolution, multilinear evolution, and universal evolution. Okay, then gave the concept of culture code, culture ecology. Okay, then we have Marshall Salin in the book Evolution and Culture. So Marshall Salin wrote a book Evolution and Culture, Evolution and Culture, Evolution and Culture, the socio. Okay, that you must remember evolution and culture. Okay, Then you must remember the theory of culture change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. Okay, like by Julian Stewart, theory and culture. Okay, Leslie White, social evolution book written by V. Gordon Childe. So all these books you must remember. You must name the authors. You must name the thinkers. You must name their books. You must name their books. You must name their the authors. Okay, you must name the name the authors of it. You must name of it in a very fine way. You must remember the name of authors, the thoughts, the thinkers, the books, name of the books in which they did a study, in which they did a study. Okay, then we are discussed about the various things of it, the various evolution of society. We are discussed about it. Then we evolved of it. So these were all about anthropological theories, guys. So I have discussed in detail about all the theories. Channel को like करें, subscribe करें, share करें, guys. So this was all about anthropological theories, guys. Bye bye. Take care.